Did you need some of this?
We'll go ahead and begin. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us this splendid Tuesday evening. What a beautiful day outside. This is the 8th meeting of the Board of Directors. So we're going to begin tonight with an invocation by Wade Rivers, and I'll lead the pledge. All rise.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the freedom that you've given in this country, that we live in a free nation, and that we're governed by the people that we elect. Lord, I pray for the members here, every member on the city council. I pray that they be given wisdom. They have been given a very tough job, and that is to be a leader and also to be a public servant. I pray that with your help and your guidance, that they make good decisions and decisions that are pleasing to you. We pray all these things in the name of our Father, our Lord in heaven, in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for
which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now call this meeting to order. Please call the roll.
Director Aaron Holliday.
Here.
Director Phyllis Beard.
Present.
Director Marcia Dobbs-Smith.
Here.
Director Dudley Webb.
Here.
Director Karen Garcia.
Here.
Director Steve Trusty.
Here.
Mayor Pat McCabe.
Here. At this time, we'll consider the approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda, or items to be moved from consent agenda to new business?
Move approval of the agenda as presented.
Motion by Director
Second.
Garcia, seconded by Director Webb. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Consider approval of the minutes of the regularly held meeting of May 2nd, 2023. Are there any additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes as presented? Motion by Director Trusty.
Yes, sir.
Seconded by
Second.
Director Dobbs-Smith. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Recognition of guests. We have Mr. Mike Hill, Assistant City Engineer, that has an award for the City of Hot Springs. Welcome.
Yes, it's my pleasure to announce to the city and to you, Mayor, that we received an award for an RDOT project we had in the city last year. It was a Lakeshore overlay job. It was awarded the best city paving job in Region 5 from the Arkansas Asphalt Pavement Association. The job ran from Hignan Ferry to Jensen Square, approximately 2 miles, and it was submitted by the contractor, Cranford, who had a subcontractor, Red Rock Paving, and they submitted it for approval basically because of the quality of the job, no change orders, it was on time, they had no problems. That doesn't happen a whole lot these days, so that's why they won the award for the best in Region 5. So I just wanted to present this to you in the city. And
Very good. Certainly, we're having a lot of paving going on throughout the community, and we'll continue to do so over the next several years. It's nice to be recognized by those within the industry that that project was thought of as to being the best project in our region, and so that's great work for their contractors and for all those who work from the City of Hot Springs to make sure that all our specifications are appropriate. So thank you to all those responsible. At this time, we'll have a city manager's report from Mr. Bill Burrow.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be brief tonight. I know we have a lot of discussion on the agenda this evening, but I would like to make the board aware that we've received over $500,000 through the Water Assistance Program. Our billing services has received actually $504,610 to date from the Low Income Housing Water Assistance Program since July 1st of 2022. The last update we provided the board was on April the 4th, and at that point, we'd received just over $120,000. So we've seen a huge increase of about $384,000 since that time. Part of that is due to now under this program, you don't actually have to have a past due bill. If you're qualified and you qualify for the assistance program, they'll actually put a credit on your account for water and wastewater. This program ends in September. So we want to just, continue to encourage those that meet that low-income housing or that low-income qualification to come by our utility billing department and get that set up. So really a great program. Has assisted a lot of people, as you can imagine, with $500,000, but we want to take full advantage of that before it expires. The 2022 Annual Water Quality Report is now posted. That's something that we're required to post every year. You can find that on the cityhs.net/water-quality-report, as well as on the utilities webpage if you go to their page direct. Our zoning and development code, 2040 comp plan, we've got Camaros that has delivered a report. You'll be able to find that at www.codeforwardhs.com. We'll post that. We'll send out a press release if it hasn't already gone out. It'll be under the presentation and reports. The report represents the findings of a technical review of the City of Hot Springs zoning code performed by Camaros. The purpose of the review is threefold. First, it provides a more in-depth understanding of the current zoning regulations as we move toward drafting an updated code. Second, it allows for discussion of additional issues not identified during the meetings and interviews with city staff and stakeholders. And then third, it introduces concepts and regulatory approaches that set the direction for substantive changes in concepts and regulatory approaches, that set of direction in the new zoning code. The report's not intended to discuss every need or every change, as some will be minor changes that are just cleaning up the code and create a more user-friendly document, while others are more detailed revisions to be worked out during the drafting. Rather, the intent is to highlight key issues and revisions that represent substantive changes to the current regulations and offer conceptual approaches to resolving specific issues. Basically, we've gone through our public comments and with staff, and we've gone through our stakeholders, and now it's a time for others to look at the plan, understand the plan, and we'll still accept comments on those as we move through, getting closer to the drafting of the actual document. Finally, I'd like to, one other issue is our historic district surveys are now available on the website. This was a huge undertaking by our planning and development department and our public information offices, and I want to specifically thank Lauren Adkins and Katie Yamuchi. The complete historic resources surveys are for the Central Avenue and the Pleasant Street historic districts. They're fully accessible from the city's website. Again, cityhs.net/planning. The surveys include detailed data, histories, and photographs for over 150 buildings. The City of Hot Springs has invested a good amount of effort and time into collecting these surveys, and now this important information is available to everyone through an innovative public history collaboration between those two departments. Very pleased to get that out. If you have any interest in historic properties in Central Avenue Historic area or the Pleasant Street Historic District, please go on to that cityhs.net/planning and take a look at that document. May 30th, we have a meeting with RKG Associates, and that's on the housing strategy plan, which is part of our impediments to housing. Parking, we're working on that. We continue to work on that. I think we should be receiving the final deliverable from Walker just any day. We'll be able to go through that and get it in a place where we can bring that back to the board, either through a work session or as an agenda item. Greenway construction, we've got the final 2 bridges in place. I think I mentioned that at our last meeting. That continues to garner a lot of attention. We're starting to see a lot of traffic down there now that are looking at the bridges. Really going to be one of the nicest parts of our Greenway, and it'll be a total of 3 miles once it's complete. And so from Transportation Depot to the Gene Wallace Trailhead and back is about a little over 6 miles. Paving is going to start here in the next couple of weeks. Pleased to say that we're going to be paving about 20 miles this year. We're going to touch about 79 streets. Just in perspective, we did 15.3 in 2022 and about 10.5 in 2021 with 56 streets. And for those of us that's been around a long time, I never thought we'd ever see a day when we did 20 miles of paving in the city of Hot Springs. And for just some cost, if we have to, we have curb and gutters on our streets, so we pretty much have to mill everything and then come back and relay it so we don't close off the storm drains. It's about $250,000 to pave a mile if you have to mill and pave it. So we're going to get all we can out of it, but really pleased to see that picking up and starting in the next week or so. RDOT has another huge project that they'll be doing, and that's on 70 West, coming from the expressway all the way to Grand Avenue in Central. It's also going to take in kind of that cube of 3rd, Grand, Summer, and Hobson. So excited about that. That's been needing for some time. They're also going to do a little job from Grand up to, I think, Marie Street on Malvern, as well as Central Avenue from Central, or from Grand up to, I think they went ahead and are going to the Fountain now. It was scheduled to terminate at Market, but I think it's going to go all the way through, or we're hoping it does. With that, Mayor, I have no other comments.
Very good. Thank you. This time we'll hear from individual directors on upcoming events. Do we have an upcoming event? Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to invite you, the board, and everyone to attend a reception tomorrow, Wednesday, at 5 p.m. at 305 Forest Lakes Boulevard at the event center there for our new police chiefs. And we want to welcome them and to honor them as our new chiefs. So I hope that you can come by and show your appreciation. We will have food and drinks catered for you, so you can enjoy your selves while you show appreciation to our new chiefs. Also, this is the National Police Officers Week, and on Thursday at 6:30 is the Fallen Officers Memorial Ceremony. And as you saw in the newspaper, there's been additional work done there for one of our officers that we lost a little over 3 years ago. And this is the time that we have that memorial ceremony for all our fallen officers. Also, on Thursday, prior to that, is in the parking garage is the Flavor of the Park. And that's always a fun activity, but it hasn't been able to happen because of COVID in the past. But so everyone's looking forward to that. On Friday morning, there's a celebration at the SAILS, the organization that helps people with disabilities, as well as they've done a lot to help some homeless people get off the streets and get back into contributing to society and have a place to live. And that's at 10 a.m. at 225 Hazel at their headquarters. And then at 1 p.m., the officers pinning for the chiefs, as well as promotions and new officers, will take place at Horner Hall. So there's something for everybody the rest of the week.
I don't think there's anything left. Any other director have another item? So we'll move on. At this time, we'll consider the consent agenda. These are items of a routine nature that do not merit individual discussion. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
Director Dobbs Smith, seconded by
Second.
Director Holliday. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Consent agenda is adopted. We have 5 resolutions to consider this evening. The first will be Resolution R-23-99. Ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-99, a resolution approving a change order to the contract with Coakley Company, Inc. for the 2022 water line improvement projects. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion if any.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Trustee, and our staff report will be provided by Engineering Project Manager, Mr. Todd Pillar. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Today's your birthday, isn't it?
Yeah, I appreciate you all coming out to the party. I got my
I just wrote it down on my bar.
I got protection
my
here
bar.
tonight. I had
Today's the
protection
mayor's
here
birthday,
tonight.
so I remember. I got a pencil with an eraser. So. I'm sorry. Yes, this resolution is for a 12-inch water line on Lakeland Drive. We're going to replace it from Central Avenue down to Yorkshire Drive. We're going to loop it together with the 6-inch that goes down Yorkshire Drive. And it was designed as part of our 2023 water line improvements. But when staff figured out that the 2023 paving program, that Lakeland Drive was on the crucial list to be mill and paved this year, we moved it as a change order to Coakley. And because Coakley's doing our 2022 water lines right now. In fact, they're in front of Oak Lawn, working on some 12-inch water lines right in front of the Sonic and Vineyard right there. The sidewalk's all busted up right now. But the change order for Coakley will be $270,248. And it will add only 51 days to the schedule, which means less than 2 months. So that'll give the paving program time to finish Lakeland by the end of the year. And this will come out of the board-approved 2023 water distribution budget.
Very good. Any questions of Todd? Director Garcia?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to compliment you and the Streets Department because I think this is a good example of interdepartmental communications and working together. This is a good reason to move this up in your schedule because it saves from any street cuts, and y'all are optimizing all of our resources to the best of your abilities. And I, as a taxpayer, appreciate that. And it's good news that this street is being paved, and I've heard from a number of constituents that are happy that that is on the paving list and appreciate the utilities and the water line. This has nothing to do with our water project change orders. This is the water line, and want to make sure the public was aware of that. And thank y'all for all working together.
Yeah, now the paving program is going a lot further than we are. We're just going
Yeah,
from Central to
I
Yorkshire,
understand that.
but they're going all the way around past the marina, all the way down to Chambers Point, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and that's good news.
Any further questions? Director Webb, did you have a question?
Well, thank you, Mayor. That kind of hit on some of my question. I was going to ask you, is the main reason for the change order because of the addition of Lakeland Drive to the street paving list? And I think you kind of answered that in response to Director Garcia.
Yeah, we had a design to do on the 2023. We just moved it over to change order for Coakley on 2022, so we can get it done so that they can pave it this year. It's a 12-inch line. We're going to tear up the street.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Director Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Now we'll move on to Resolution R-23-100 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-100, a resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Hot Springs, Arkansas and Sky Tours Hot Springs LLC. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would, entertain the motion, a second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Dobb Smith, seconded by Director Webb. We have our new airport director, Mr. Don Roulette, will provide the staff report. Welcome.
Mayor, but before Don gives his report, I would like to point out something for the board. At your stations, you have a lease agreement. This resolution asks you to approve and authorize the mayor to sign the attached lease agreement. There needed to be a change to this agreement for the National Park Service. That change is contained on page 8, paragraph 20. The second paragraph thereof, additional language which simply gives better definition to the act that is referred to in that paragraph. And so in order to approve the attached lease agreement, I would ask that you entertain a motion to amend to substitute this one at your station for the one that was in the packet.
Very good. Motion to amend? So moved. Director Trustee,
Second.
seconded by Director Garcia. Thank you. Do we need
All in favor?
all in favor of the motion to amend? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign.
Sorry, Don.
We'll consider the amended version. Now, Mr. Roulette.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, directors. This resolution is with the Sky Tours LLC for operations outside of the airport, doing their commercial tours in and around the area, the lakes and so forth. This evening in the audience, I also have Mr. Jason Burton, which is the managing member of the organization, and if you have any questions for the company. The lease is for ramp space to do their operations and area inside the terminal in order to process their passengers.
What do you, are the hours of operation typical of a, I guess with summertime, they'll be into the evening and all?
Yes, sir. Normal operations like any other aircraft operations would be with the touring and so forth. They have several different routes that they would be flying. In the lease agreement, there is a stipulation, part of that change with the National Park Service that Mr. Albright was talking about. That change is in there for no overflight over the national park until they get that authorization from the FAA. And also indicated in the lease is no overflight of the Oaklawn racetrack.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at this lease agreement where the term is, the original term of this lease is shall be for a period of 12 months commencing upon the execution hereof, ending the day or the 30th day of April of 2024. Would the option to renegotiate, as it said here, the tenant shall have the option to renegotiate this lease for an additional two-year periods? Would that imply that that's for 48 months or 4 years?
No, two separate terms of 12 months each.
Okay. Would we be able to, at the end of this first year lease, have this, I guess, resolution come back before the board to check the status of the operational details?
If that is the pleasure of the board, absolutely.
I would want to make that motion, being that it's in its first year of operation, just to have it come back before the board where we can kind of look at the operational details and see if everything's functioning in accordance to the ordinance and meeting all of the FAA codes at the airport. Could we do that prior to extending the lease for those additional
Yes,
12
sir.
months?
I don't think that requires a motion. It just simply calls for the ability to negotiate, and so we will negotiate at sometime before April 30th of 2024.
Okay.
So if we have a new lease to bring, we'll bring it to you.
Okay.
So you'll be able to review it at that point, as you have requested.
But it's a normal process of the department manager and city administration to review those operations in advance of extending lease terms. I think what Brian is saying, since it'll be a new agreement, it's going to come back to us anyways for approval.
Well, yeah,
Yeah. Go ahead.
thank you, Mayor. Would that be included in the option to renegotiate? That's going to be kind of what we do as we're renegotiating, is to examine the operational functions to determine if what we choose to do is to extend the lease contract?
Yes, sir. So the language states renegotiate. It does not state renew. If we were not going to be bringing it back to you, it would have an automatic ability to renew. Negotiate is negotiate. And so if they wish to renew that, we will have to bring it back to you for your approval. And at that point in time, I'm sure that Don and his staff will provide you with the information concerning the operation and the status of their permits and any other questions that the board might have at that time.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any additional questions yeah, Director Garcia.
Will this commence as soon as the mayor signs it?
Yes, ma'am.
And how soon will the activities for the tours begin?
I'll turn that over to Mr. Burton there. He has the operational
Please come
information for
forward.
the company.
Mayor, Board of Directors. We will commence as soon as we can get everything permitted and ready to go. So I mean, we're kind of standing by, waiting for you guys. So as soon as we're up and able to fly, we will be ready to do so.
So we can come take a tour?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. We've got a local pilot that moved here just for this, and he's ready to go and ready to get his hours. So.
That sounds good.
Now, you said, I mean, this will be signed, before we leave tonight, but then you also made a comment as soon as everything's permitted. What other permits are outstanding?
The business license for the city of Hot Springs.
Okay, well, that's, just go across the street.
Yes, sir. I will be there.
All right. Who's doing your maintenance?
Our maintenance, we have a series of different mechanics. They all have to be certified to do maintenance. We do have a couple local mechanics as well as mechanics in surrounding cities as well. But we're going to try to do all of our maintenance here. It's cheaper for us not to fly the aircraft and spend all that money flying the aircraft around. So we'll be doing our maintenance here.
All right. Thank you. Any
Thank
additional
you.
questions of the gentleman? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, on this amendment that we acted on and is now incorporated into this agreement, if they violate that flying over the national park, would that be an event of default? That
Yes.
was a question I had.
Yes,
on
sir.
Number 17.
Yes, sir.
Didn't know if it needed to be listed there, but any violation of
Any
code or
violation
lease
of,
or-
any violation of a lawful purpose would be deemed a default.
Yeah, okay. I just wanted to be sure.
Yes,
Thanks,
sir.
sir. Thank you.
Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So Sky Tours Hot Springs LLC, do you have any other Sky Tours in any other cities besides Hot Springs, or
Yes,
is this
we-
your only one?
Yes, we have another location in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. Hocha Town. I say Broken Bow. Most people say Hocha what, and they don't understand, but they
I've
just
heard of that
became their
city.
own. They just became their own city, so it's growing out there like gangbusters. So
How's that establishment doing?
it's doing really well. It's doing really well. Yeah. So.
When did it start?
We started
there?
June of last year. We shut that location down over the winter just because it's really slow. We don't anticipate doing that here. I mean, there's 6,000 cabins up there, which sounds like a lot, but compared to how many people visit here throughout the year, we anticipate more business here. And with the race season, obviously not flying over the racetrack, but just the sheer volume of people coming in the wintertime, we should be able to maintain flying throughout the year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very nice. Any further questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else sign up to speak?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? So we're going to approve the resolution as amended. Please call the roll.
Director Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb,
Aye.
Garcia,
Aye.
Trustee,
Aye.
Holliday, Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution is adopted. Moving on to the third of 5 resolutions, we'll consider Resolution R-23-101 and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-101, a resolution authorizing the filing and acceptance of the 2023 Arkansas Outdoor Recreation Grant to support Phase 2 of the Velocity Park. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion to second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Director Trustee, seconded by Director Webb. And Anthony Whittington, our Parks and Trails Director, will provide the staff report. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. In April 2023, the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism announced they would be accepting applications for the Arkansas Outdoor Recreation Grant program with a due date of August 25th of 2023. This grant gives the City of Hot Springs an opportunity to construct Phase 2 of Velocity Park. With the construction of this phase, Velocity Park, located at 325 Valley Street, would be complete. The Arkansas ORG grant program is 50% funded, which requires a 50% match. It is estimated that Phase 2 of Velocity Park will require a grant award of $250,000. The city will will equal the $250,000 with a project total of $500,000. The match funds are identified to come from the Parks and Trails grant match account and at FY23. As you know, Phase 1 is nearing completion. We're about 90% complete. We're estimating about a July timetable to have that officially open to the public. We've got people that are enjoying it on their own right now, but it's definitely something that's been awaiting a lot of people in this community. We're trying to make the Valley Street area more of an outdoor recreation corridor, and this addition, complements the Greenway, complements the skate park, the Majestic Ballpark, and making this area of town more of an outdoor recreation area. Phase 2, which is what's coming before you today, which we're looking to file for a grant, is a bicycle playground area, this is going to be across the creek next to the Butterfly Garden on the Greenway. And it's designed to be used by youth and beginner riders, and so it'll have ground level components as you see on your screens there, and just used for people that are beginning and can practice their skills and then jump across the creek on the more technical stuff of Phase 1, etc.
Literally jump across the creek?
Not literally, yes. We will have a sidewalk connecting the two phases at the corner of Runyon and Valley, yes. But,
Just thinking about liability. Thank you.
yes, sir, yes.
Any questions of Mr. Whittington? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. So, Anthony or Mr. Whittington, you were sharing with us that we've got a sidewalk there at Runyon and Valley. Would we have any accessible bridge or something between Phase 1 and Phase 2 that crosses over the creek? Is that coming into phase later on, or do we anticipate that ever being any type of move?
If we did, it'll be a future phase. It's not in our current project, outline right now. We're just the way we've cleared the brush away. Parents can see both phases by, no matter where they're at in the park. So, and then we'll utilize the access phases there. That's the Greenway does cross right there as well.
Right.
So we're just saving money basically and using that already access right there. So, but if there's a need in the future, we may consider that. Yes.
Thank you. And I will have you know, I am one of those few who have tested it out already with my kids, and it was good to ride on.
Correct. Yes.
Now,
sir.
we were just walking it.
Yes. Yeah.
Just to get a feel for it. Once it
Yeah.
has that official grand opening, then I think we'll test it out with a bike. But
Absolutely.
I like the way it looks. I think it's a great addition to our city.
Thank you. And we're marketing it as anything, human-powered wheels. So roller blades, roller skates, BMX, mountain bike, the push scooters. Nothing motorized, obviously, but open for all those things as well. So.
Very nice. Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Anthony, you mentioned that Phase 1 will be open hopefully by July.
Mm-hmm.
Did you mention a timetable on this, when Phase 2 would be complete, if we were awarded the grant? If you did, I'm sorry.
I did not. If we're awarded the grant, we will start construction in spring of next year.
Okay.
So hopefully by summer. It's a smaller phase, so it's less technical features, and so there'll be less groundwork and things. This phase will have a lot of ground level components.
Okay.
So I anticipate probably summer of 24.
Great, thank you.
Very nice. Any additional questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone sign up?
No, sir.
No one signed up. Discussion amongst directors? please call the roll.
Director Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Now we'll move on to Resolution R-23-102 and ask the city attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-102, a resolution authorizing salary adjustments and a residency incentive for all sworn police officers of the Hot Springs Police Department, and creating signing bonuses for certified and non-certified applicants, approving a budget amendment, and for other purposes. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion, second to adopt.
Motion to adopt.
So moved. Second.
Director Garcia, seconded by Director Dobbs Smith. And again, our staff report will be provided by our new police chief, Chief Billy Harvington. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. I come before you this evening asking you to approve this resolution authorizing a pay raise package and incentives for sworn personnel of the Hot Springs Police Department. This proposal consists of a 12.5% adjustment to all salaries, a residency incentive of $2,600 annually, and recruiting incentives by the way of signing bonuses of $5,000 for non-certified and $10,000 for certified officers. As I expressed to all of you in a previous meeting, we're at critical levels in America in the way of hiring, recruiting, and retention of law enforcement personnel. Retirements have reportedly increased by 45% and resignations by 20%. Almost 80% of agencies polled in a recent survey reported that they are having difficulty in both recruiting and hiring. Our eligible hiring list dropped from an average of 30 between 2004 and 2010 to an average of 7 in the most recent years. And we have found our agency in a constant state of recruiting, hiring, and training of new officers when that was once something we only did in the fall of the year. In fact, our last hiring list did not produce enough eligible applicants to fill all of our vacancies, and we immediately went back into another recruiting and hiring cycle to find ourselves with a low turnout of applicants again. Over the last year, we've seen many other agencies across the state increase salaries, incentives, and recruiting benefits in order to offset these same issues. And as a consequence of that, the Hot Springs Police Department has found itself being outpaced by these other agencies in the way of salaries. The salary comparison spreadsheet I provided in your packets gives some insight on what some of these other agencies are offering. As you will see, there are many offering $50,000 or more starting salary and benefit packages as good or better than ours, while we are offering $44,492. In fact, just last week, we saw Benton PD increase their starting salary from $44,326 to $51,000 even. As I expressed to you previously, HSPD is being heavily recruited by a state agency. At the time that we last spoke, I advised you that I knew of 4 officers that had applied with them. That number is now at least 5, with one of those officers being a 15-year veteran detective of our agency. Those are only the officers that I'm sure of, and odds are that there are more. We cannot afford to lose our officers, much less our veterans, to other agencies based merely upon salary and incentives. And we also cannot afford to find ourselves trying to replace 10 or 12 additional officers in any one year, as it will exhaust our already overstressed resources. I feel that if we do not make change now, we may very well find ourselves in that situation. Furthermore, we need to get to a point that we have a working hiring list that we can pull from the entire year and not be in a constant state of recruiting, background checks, and hiring based upon a low number of applicants. I feel this salary and incentive package will help us achieve that. I also feel that it will entice at least some of our officers that are considering a move to stay and complete their careers with Hot Springs. You've heard me say before that Hot Springs is considered one of the best agencies in the state, and that is wholeheartedly the truth. We are very discerning in who we hire, we train them well, and we set high expectations for them and their service to this community. They are willing to put their lives on the line each and every day for people that they've never met. They knew they would not become independently wealthy in this line of work, but they deserve a fair compensation and one that is similar to comparable agencies in the state. In your packet, I have provided you with a proposal of a 2023 pay scale that represents a 12.5% salary adjustment for all positions and steps. It would raise our starting salary to $50,053. The fiscal impact of that adjustment would be $624,351 for the remainder of 2022, if it were to become effective on the proposed date of June the 10th. During our work session, it was proposed by a member of the board and others expressed interest as well in a residency bonus of $5,000. I fully understand the reasoning of this is to have more officers reside within the city limits, which will make our officers more visible to our citizens and likely deter crime in our neighborhoods. I put much consideration into that and looked at different options, and I feel a stipend of $100 per pay period or $2,600 annually is the most beneficial to all. This gives officers a monetary benefit that will likely have them consider housing options within the city over similar options in the county, particularly when purchasing a new home. The cost of that is $52,500 for the remainder of 2023, plus retirement match and Medicare of $13,419 and $761 respectively. That is based upon the current number of officers that live in the city, which is 35. By way of the stipend, the city can spread the cost out over the entire year as opposed to paying a lump sum of $175,000 if we were to do a $5,000 bonus for each one of them. Furthermore, a stipend would give an officer more incentive to keep their residency in the city long-term, knowing that if they move outside the city, they would immediately lose that income. During our previous discussion, it was also proposed that we add a general sign-on bonus of $5,000 for all newly hired, non-certified officers to go along with a $10,000 bonus for certified officers that I had proposed. I project the overall cost of the bonuses annually to be $70,000 to $80,000 based upon the average number of officers hired in the last 3.5 years. However, we do currently have 4 openings, and we just received a new eligible hiring list from the Civil Service Commission. For that reason, I make the proposal that these bonuses become effective immediately for any current applicant. This will create fairness and consistency and also give applicants that may have job applications out with multiple agencies more incentive to choose Hot Springs. In conclusion, the total fiscal impact of this proposal for the remainder of 2023 is $726,529. We understand that this is a substantial amount of money to ask for, but please understand that there is more ask of law enforcement in this current era than ever before. The job is more complicated, it's more stressful, it's more dangerous, and the expectations are greater than ever. Our officers make many sacrifices to protect our community, to include working nights, weekends, holidays, attending court on their days off, missing events, birthdays, ball games, etc., and they rarely complain. They understand that they are still the line between good and evil and that our community needs their best efforts. In order to ensure that we recruit, hire, and retain the best our region has to offer, I feel we must offer the best pay and benefits we can in order to stay competitive. I respectfully request that the board pass this resolution authorizing the proposed new 2023 pay scale with a 12.5% adjustment, the addition of a $2,600 residency incentive, and a bonus of $5,000 and $10,000 respectively for certified and non-certified officers. Thank you, and I'll answer any questions that you have.
Any questions of Chief Harvington? Director Trustee?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, the 12 months on the signing bonus agreements, is that standard within the other police departments? We're going to pay
as far as the payback
yes,
time?
If they leave within the first 12 months, they are responsible for reimbursing the entire signing bonus. Is that standard?
I would say it's pretty standard, yes, sir.
Okay.
Any additional questions? Director Webb?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, when did you say the last major wage increase occurred for Hot Springs Police?
It would have been back in the day of the public safety sales tax when it was enacted, so around 2099.
So about 23, 24 years ago?
November 3rd, 1998.
There you go. Yes, sir.
It's almost 25 years ago. I guess the question I have too might be better directed for our city manager, Bill Burrow, maybe not so much Chief Harvington, but if we were to approve this resolution, to accept this proposal as is, again, we're looking at just a little over $700,000 that will be over the original budget, which is somewhat expected, you know, when you have a wage increase. How do we anticipate sustaining those funds? Where do we anticipate pulling those funds from? And how might we make those adjustments moving forward in future years?
Well, I mean, that's a good question, and we've had many conversations about that, both the chief and I, as well as our finance director. And, you know, the city's in a very solid financial position today, and we're seeing record-setting levels of sales tax increases coming into our coffers. I feel very, very strong that we'd be able to sustain this for the next 3 or 4 years. What happens after 5 years? I really don't know. I don't, you know, like I told them, I don't really have a crystal ball of what happens 5 years from now, but I know what is happening now. I fully support this initiative and this proposal, knowing over the past really 2 years how difficult it's been to maintain a full police force. And for every one of those persons, every one of those officers that we don't have puts all the other officers at more risk. So it's you know, I think it's a balance of making sure that our public safety have what they need to remain safe, but also we've got to stop the bleeding of losing our officers, and it's happening more and more. And when you look at that list of all the other cities that have done something very similar, you know, with Fayetteville being at 55.7, State Police at 54, Fort Smith at 50, Little Rock at 50, Springdale at 50, North Little Rock at 50, Conway at 48, Benton just went to 51. And today, at our current levels, the city of Malvern pays more for their starting officers than we do. So we know that we've got to find a way to get to that, to get around that 50,000 mark for our entry-level officers. And it is 12.5% going throughout the organization. But without that, you have what would essentially be compression of the ranks. We fought that in years past, and we had to do some things to fix that. And just knowing what that compression does concerns me. So, you know, we talked about, you know, a set amount for each. I think as part of one of your proposals that you had mentioned. But when you look at that, you see that compression, I think it makes more sense to do the percentages increase. But to answer your question, I think this is sustainable for the next several years, but I really don't have a crystal ball on what happens then. I can tell you we've had lean years in the past, and we've been able to overcome those by looking at other areas and making sure we tighten our belts. And I foresee that should a time come to where we see sales taxes plateau, or we see a decrease in sales tax, we're going to take appropriate action to make sure that we're well ahead of that before we get to a point to where we can't operate our city.
Director, well, we'll go back to Director Webb.
Thank you, City Manager. Adding to that, you know, right now, with 35 officers that live within the city, and again, if we approve this proposal as is, that means that the incentive for residential pay stands at 52.5. If we were to see that number rise from 35, which is kind of its intended purposes, have we thought that through too as well? Because that 52.5 number could very easily turn into 100 plus.
Well, and I hope it does. From the standpoint of bringing those officers in, I believe, and you go back to the ballot when we passed that, and we talked about officers having vehicles at their homes, and giving a more sense of a safe neighborhood, because you have an officer's vehicle out in front of that house. They know an officer lives in the neighborhood. You know, I think there is a quality of life aspect to that. Now, if we get to a point to where we see that's really impacting our finances to a point that we can't sustain that particular part of it, we'll come back and look at that incentive. It may be one that we need to address in the future. Those are a lot easier to address than the salaries. So, you know, I guess what I'm saying is we can take appropriate action if needed to at that time. That'd be part of that tightening the belt that we're going to have to do if we see those things happening. But I'd love nothing more for all 115 of our officers to live in the city of Hot Springs.
Director Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. I speak in favor of this proposal as presented by the chief. I too looked at the financial implications and forecasted on our current trend of revenues. I don't hesitate that we will be able to sustain this currently and ongoing. Feedback from residents in the city and from surveys that I've conducted, public safety is number one. And the people of Hot Springs in the late 90s approved for the take-home vehicles, and the feedback is they are in favor of the stipends if that brings more officers into the neighborhoods and to retain the ones that are already here. It is obvious that we can't afford to lose officers at any rank. The experienced and new officers, we need a balance. And I believe that any loss is going to be a negative impact to our public safety. The people of Hot Springs have said public safety is their number one concern, and they are taking the approach that we need to be competitive and we need to keep the best police department in the state as we have. And I wish that we could do more than the 12.5%, but they deserve more. But we know that it's a big ask, and everyone that I've talked to is comfortable with that. And what better time to approve this than during National Peace Officers Week? And I wholly support this for all police officers. But I do say we aren't ignoring our other employees. In fact, the board has asked for the salary information so that we may stay competitive in all departments and areas. This particular one with the police department is an urgency, as we could lose a large number. We've got to retain and recruit. So I vote yes.
Director Webb, did you have a final comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just want to come back to those few questions that I had for our city manager. To make what you were sharing with us short, would that mean that to cover this cost increase of just over $700,000 that is essentially going to come from sales tax revenue or general fund and possibly the city's reserve?
Well, without a doubt, it's going to come throughout the remainder of this year. It's coming out of fund balance. And, that's something we have to watch, using fund balance for raises. But in this, because we've already set the budget, it will come out of fund balance. And then as we move into the 2024 budget, we'll be looking at those with our same revenue projections as we do in any budget year. Typically we always show where we're going to have some type of a negative fund balance when we pass these budgets, but we've not had one at least in the years that I've been here or in that office. And that really goes back to the work by all of our employees. I mean, I think all of our employees are very cognizant of saving money, being able to work more efficiently, more effective. I'm glad Director Garcia brought up the other non-uniformed employees. The RFQ is out. We've got that out. And we'll be looking at a job analysis on all positions within the city. Now, am I concerned on whether we can fund everything there? I am. We're talking about 600 employees, 575 employees. Once we take out maybe about 550 once we take out the officers or the uniform. So I'm concerned about all of that, but that's one of the things that we'll have to address once we see what that market analysis bears. But I believe this is something that's needed. A rising tide raises all vessels, and again, just looking at this particular item, I know where we're at today in terms of trying to retain and hire police officers, and we're on the losing end of that. And it's just it's a path we can't continue to go down. So, you know, I applaud the chief in bringing this to us, and I think it's going to help us retain and hire more officers. And we've got some of the best trained officers in the state of Arkansas, and that's well known throughout the state. And I think that's why this group is so heavily recruited. You know, I take pride in what you guys do and what you offer us and the safety of our citizens and all of us. So I don't know, I kind of got off on a tangent there, but
Director Webb, you got a closing comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Well, I think a lot of what I'm going to end with here, we got to hear Director Garcia and our city manager speak on too. But, you know, I sit here today and I'm glad we are looking at compensation increases for our police department, as I'm an advocate for law enforcement and owe all police officers a debt of gratitude for the sacrifices they make to help keep my family and all families safe here in Hot Springs. If we were to ever begin the phase of compensation increases, it is fair to say that I do support that process beginning with the police. Having said that, it is also fair to say that I'm hopeful to get some assurance that other departments will receive their opportunity to have wage advancements as well. The frontline workers for our city departments play a vivid role in keeping this city moving forward too, and take on tasks that very few individuals would dare to take on. Sewage workers getting out at 2 a.m. to repair line breaks, water workers fixing busted pipes at all hours of the day and night, district court administrators taking on double duties for the city and county, street crews running all over the city to maintain safe flow of traffic in the smoldering heat and even the freezing rain, and I could go on and on. These workers are deserving of wage increases as well. And so the question is, how do we make this all work? And I think our city manager was doing as best as he can to kind of lay that out for all of us here tonight. You know, it is going to start with a good conservative plan, you know, a good conservative budget, and one that takes away the wants and keeps the needs. It's so easy to want to think that you can just wave a magic wand and sprinkle down money, but it just doesn't work that way. So I will say, you know, that the department heads for our city are some of the brightest minds on this planet. And so I do look forward to working with everyone, a part of our city staff, to determine what steps that we can take to make this effort come to life. I did request earlier last week to receive the city pay scales for all city departments for this current year and in years past, as far back as we could go. Those details were provided to me today, so I'll be spending lots of time reviewing this issue to help our city work towards getting its frontline workers competitive compensation moving forward. We've got a lot of great workers who put in hard hours for our city to keep us in as great shape as we are currently in. We've got to keep it that way. And we've also got a great police force, and we've got to keep it that way too. Moving forward and in closing, I want to spend time as well with the team to review our consulting services within each department to determine which consulting services we have that are needed and which we have that we may not essentially need. So I stand here tonight in support of our proposal for our police department. I am hopeful that this proposal would have the potential to negate those recruitment efforts and allow Hot Springs to retain these officers. And I think too it's prominent upon us to consider that the last time any major pay scale like this has occurred, which was pointed out earlier tonight by our city attorney, was almost 25 years ago. How many of us have to wear a bulletproof vest to get up and do our jobs?
All right, thank you. We have anyone sign up to speak on this?
No, sir.
Any discussion amongst directors? Thank you, Chief Harvington.
Thank you, sir.
Please call the roll.
Director Webb.
Aye.
Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday. Aye. Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Our
Mayor.
fine,
Mayor,
yes.
I just think we ought to show our appreciation to these fine men and women who are here tonight.
Our final action item of this evening is to consider Resolution R-23-103, and ask City Attorney to read by title.
Resolution R-23-103, a resolution approving the fiscal year 2023 Community Development Block Grant Annual Action Plan and authorizing submission of a grant application to U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development for projects listed in the action plan. That concludes your reading, Mayor. If you would entertain a motion second to adopt and have discussion, if any.
Motion to adopt.
Thank you, Director Trustee, seconded by Director Webb and Ms. Kathy Selman, Planning and Development Director. Welcome.
Thank
She'll
you.
provide the staff report.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the board. The City of Hot Springs was designated as a Community Development Block Grant, that's CDBG, entitlement community by HUD in July of 2003. The city is required to submit an annual action plan to HUD describing projects to be undertaken and how funds will be expended. At a duly advertised meeting on March 2nd, the Hot Springs Community Development Advisory Committee, CDAC, considered applications submitted in anticipation of a fiscal year 2023 $415,849 CDBG grant award, and having a quorum voted 4-0 to recommend a prioritized list of eligible applications. This action plan was made available for public review and comment beginning on April 4th. At their duly advertised meeting on May 4th, CDAC considered the fiscal year 2023 annual action plan. Again, having a quorum, voted unanimously 4-0 to recommend the Hot Springs Board of Directors approve that plan as submitted. And you'll remember that several weeks ago, the board voted to accept the prioritized list that CDAC provided to you after reviewing each of those projects. HUD requires that the approved fiscal 2023 annual action plan is to be submitted by May 17th, and that's tomorrow. HUD then will allocate 45 days for its review. HUD approval of the annual action plan listing a project is no guarantee that the project will take place. The project must pass through an environmental review process, and the severity of that scrutiny is determined by the nature of each project. Construction projects, projects dealing with single-family housing construction, projects affecting historical or cultural properties, or affecting sites with cultural significance to tribal nations, projects located in or near floodplains, critical wetland habitats, airports, and those projects with extraordinary potential environmental impacts are required by the federal government to undergo levels of review that have the potential to delay or cancel the implementation of a project. Typically, project timelines are not severely disrupted by the environmental review, but this is a factor that is out of control, the control of the Community Development Block Grant and city staff, and is completely reliant on the nature of each project and the potential environmental impacts. Regarding the annual action plan, as available application requests exceed the available fiscal 2023 funds by $29,307, CDAC, by their 4-0 vote, recommends that the board fund projects numbers 1 through 8 in the recommended priority order up to the amount available. Projects in excess of the available amount of funding will be placed on hold for reconsideration should additional funding become available in fiscal year 2023. That additional funding often comes from prior year projects which were unable to be completed or which were completed under budget. So it is not out of the question that Project 9 will see that it is funded, although it is below the funding line at the moment. Fiscal 2023 Annual Action Plan proposes that community development block grant funding in the amount of $415,849 be allocated as follows. And the priority order is 2023 Community Development Block Grant Planning and Administration, Habitat for Humanity infrastructure improvements at Crescent and Lafayette Streets, Habitat for Humanity infrastructure improvements at Gaines and Mayflower Streets, Spa Area Independent Living Services, also known as SAILS, bathroom renovations, Light Uptown. This is a joint project of the Park Avenue Community Association and the City of Hot Springs, a rapid flashing beacon at Silver and Crescent Streets, the John Lee Webb House interior rehabilitation, and Morrison Street sidewalks from Cherokee to Central. And project number 9 is Malvern Avenue, Church Street, versatile parking area. The total of all project requests, as it is every year, exceeds the amount of money that HUD has provided to us. And this is always difficult. You have the most difficult decision of all to make in that all of these projects are excellent. All of them are eligible activities, and we do not quite have the amount of money that we need to fund all 9 projects. So CDEC is recommending that you fund projects 1 through 8, and as the year progresses, we will again assess where we are with available community development block grant funds and make every effort to fund project number 9 as well. Thank you.
Any questions of Ms. Selman? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody sign up? Discussion amongst directors? Call the roll.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Trustee.
Aye.
Holliday.
Aye.
Beard.
Aye.
Dobbs Smith.
Aye.
Webb.
Aye.
Mayor McCabe.
Aye. Resolution's adopted. Before we move on to Board of Directors items for discussion, I'd like to call Karen Scott up to provide an overview of the first quarter finance summary. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the board. Through March 31st, 2023, the first quarter, I would like to report that the general fund year-to-date revenues over expenditures is a little over $2.5 million. Compared to last year at this time, that amount was $1.926 million. So that is an increase of $581,758. The fund balance as of March 31st, the restricted is $2.9 million, unrestricted is $20.25 million. In the street fund, the year-to-date revenue over expenditures is $2,027,220. Last year at this time, that number was $955,747, or a positive increase this year of $1,071,473. The fund balance in the street fund restricted is $1.761 million, and unrestricted $9,025,000. I would like to point out that that includes the Our Roads Now Fund, which is the new sales tax, and it is tracking like other sales tax revenue, which is slightly up from projections. The water fund, year-to-date revenues over expenditures is $603,996. Last year, that number was $538,631, or a positive increase of $65,365. The fund balance in the water fund is $78,104,000. The wastewater fund, year-to-date revenues over expenditures is $481,065. Last year, that number was $401,878, or a positive increase of $79,187. The fund balance in the wastewater fund at March 31st was $52,021,000. All other funds are flat when you compare year to year. Some of the reasons for these higher fund revenues over expenditures would be as follows. Sales tax year-to-date is up 9.32% over last year. Oaklawn revenue is up 6.51% over last year. Business license revenue is up 34.4%. I would like to point out that through March 31st, we collected $973,820 from business licenses, and we budgeted $825,000. So through the first quarter, business license revenue is already $148,000 over budget, with most collections already taking place. The interest revenue year-to-date is $2.736 million. Last year, that was $461,000, representing an increase of $2.27 million. That is, of course, a direct reflection of the market rates being substantially higher this year than last year. Expenses are tracking very close to last year. The slight exception would be salaries due to the 3% increase, but again, revenues were more than handling that. I would say that the one item I looked at pretty closely was fuel, and we're slightly under budget on fuel. If you remember, we increased all of the fuel budgets this year because of last year's actual numbers and the fuel prices going up so high. And so I was pleased to see that. That concludes my report.
Any questions of Ms. Scott?
Very good.
Good report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. This time we'll hear from directors for items for discussion. We got any items for discussion? Director Garcia.
Mayor, I'd like to ask the board and others to join me in wishing you happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Oh, no.
To you. Happy
Shut this down.
birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mayor. Happy birthday to you.
All right. All right. I'll slip you that $20 after the camera's off.
That was kind of deja vu.
Yeah.
I'm not going there.
Thank you. Okay, we have other more serious discussion items. Director Webb?
That's a tough act to follow. Thank you, Mayor. I want to congratulate the neighborhood group of Andover, Main, Freda, and Richard Street for being recognized as an official neighborhood watch program. This is a very serious group of residents who take pride in watching over their families and properties, and they completed all steps to become official. Their new sign is up, and they are making progress documenting all activities within their neighborhood. I want to especially thank Officer Omar Cervantes for helping this neighborhood watch program check off all of their criteria boxes to be formal. I want to thank this group of citizens for helping to keep our community safe, and also thank the Hot Springs Police Department for working with this group to provide such sound advice for proper neighborhood watch efforts. So please join me in congratulating this official neighborhood watch program. And I want to make just this quick announcement as well. If you or anyone you know in District 4 and you are interested in finding out what you need to do to help your neighborhood become an official neighborhood watch program, please give me a call. I want to get as many of these programs not just in District 4, but I'm hoping this sparks a light that just shoots all the way across our beautiful city. But I want to see the number of formal neighborhood watch programs grow in our city, and I especially just want to thank again the Hot Springs Police Department and Officer Cervantes for their help. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional items for discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a
I
motion.
move we adjourn, Mayor.
Got a motion to adjourn, second by Director Webb. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We do have public comment immediately following, once we transition. Thank you. We are.